Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm doing the video that I mentioned in my I'm back video. I created a list of things that I used to do when I was making videos 5+ years ago that I no longer do. And again, I've laughed at some of these because sometimes I'm like, I peaked back then, honey. I don't do all of these things, but really I hope this just showcases that there are seasons for things. And I also think that sometimes social media in general, we see people setting out and having these goals, and then maybe they add another goal on, and then they're doing this thing, and they're also doing this thing, and we're not sure, are they doing all these new things as well as all these things they were doing before, or did they give up some of those, and that's how they made space for these new things. So I'm going to give you my list in no particular order, just from watching old videos as I was preparing to get back on YouTube, of things that stuck out to me that, oh yeah, I did that. I don't do that anymore. Okay, so the first one is cloth napkins. I guess there was a time when I had bought cute little Pioneer Woman cloth napkins and we did away with paper napkins, and I think that's great. None of the things that I no longer do am I knocking or belittling in any way. But some point after we moved here, I stopped, which we've been here for 5 years, I stopped doing that, and I don't totally know why. I think it probably had a lot to do with our family size growing, and maybe the napkins were wearing out. I really don't remember what it was. I will say, and this is a question I got to make a video about when you add another child into your family, that transition period. But when we started doing foster care again 4 years ago, I knew that I really wanted things to be super simple in the kitchen, that I wanted to maintain cooking all of our meals and eating at home. But if there were areas that I needed to make easier while we added a baby to the family, then I was willing to do that. And so that might have been around that time, but I'm not actually sure if that was the reason behind it. Number 2, I don't make Jason breakfast most mornings. So I wish I did, but also about 3 or 4 years ago, I started walking in the mornings, like before Jason even wakes up, with a couple friends of mine. And then one of my friends and I continue that. We usually take a 2-mile walk in the morning while my kids and husband are getting up for the morning. And so I'm not here to make his breakfast. On the mornings that we don't walk, I do typically make breakfast, and if they're not just having cereal, but it's definitely, I don't do it like I used to. Also, in my videos from like 5 years ago, I mentioned that we really didn't do a lot of cereal. I was the mom that was making scrambled eggs and pancakes and muffins and stuff every morning. Even 4 years ago, I remember really valuing the idea of my kids having a warm breakfast. I'm sitting on my knees. Okay. And as my kids have gotten older and they're now much more independent and they're waking up and going and getting themselves breakfast right away, no matter what I'm doing, unless I'm making a big breakfast for them, cereal has become very convenient, and that's something that my kids have often. So I do make breakfast sometimes, but I will say a lot of the times my kids are making themselves a bowl of cereal, or sometimes I'm making eggs or something. The next one, this is one that definitely changed. I've got 5 kids now. Our house is a little smaller than the last house. It's 1,200 square feet. And I would say it is just as tidy as it always has been, but it is not nearly as clean. So tidy meaning like clutter and then stuff being put away on a regular basis. Like if you came over to my house at any given time, it's not super messy. But I used to have such a detailed monthly cleaning. Like I cleaned blinds on a monthly basis. I'm shocked by that. And I would clean my oven on a monthly basis, so it never got super grody. I don't do that anymore. I do, the only monthly cleaning thing that I have that I put in my planner every month is that I want to dust the house, and that means I dust the ceiling fans. I don't have a fireplace. We have one little shelf. There's really not any surfaces in my house as much as there were. I mean, there weren't many in the last house, but there's still a little bit more. And then like I dust pictures and stuff, not every month. I don't dust blinds every month. The things that I used to be detailed on making sure happened, I am now much more of a like, oh, I've got a little burst of energy in the evening when Jason's at Bible study or something, and I've got the kids outside, I'll knock this out. And so then I will move the couches and clean behind them, but it's no longer something that I am making enough of a priority that I'm putting it on a to-do list. And I'm fine with it. Like that doesn't feel like I've let anything go. I don't think it was a waste of time then. Without complaining about our current house, I will say that I feel like part of my of less motivation to clean those types of things is in our last house when we bought it, it was like move-in ready. It had been like taken really well care of, and then it just wasn't as old as this house. This house was built in the 50s, and that house was built, I think, in the year I was born, 1988. And so that house just, you could clean the baseboards and the baseboards were clean. You could wipe down a cabinet and it was spotless then, right? And that's just not the case with a much older home where those things are not, you know, gutted and redone. So there's just not as much motivation because there's not as much satisfaction to me that when it's super clean, it maybe still doesn't look the way my old house did, even when it wasn't super clean. It's kind of making an excuse, but I do think that that is part of it. But again, it doesn't matter. Another thing I don't do, I don't have a chore chart for my kids. So when we first moved in here, I even like redid one, and I had like the kids were getting 10 cents or a quarter for certain tasks, and it was on the refrigerator, and we were into it. My boys started a landscape business. Let's see, they celebrated a year in November. So this coming November will be 2 years that they have been pulling weeds and mowing yards together. The three of them, with Daddy going along with them, but them doing the work. And when that started, I was like, well, we're no longer going to pay them for chores. Because the only reason we were paying them money for chores was so they could learn how to handle money. But now they were making way more money and also just not needing to be making it from us. And so we were like, they had also established the routines of doing those chores. Like they know if mom says, hey, take out the trash, one of them just does it. Like whoever's name I call, there's no like, well, I did it last time or I did it, because they have the established routine of you're going to do certain things around the house. All my kids have to make their bed in the morning. I need to work with Hayden on learning how to do that. But the other four do that every single morning. They just know that's what they do. They know that when I take the laundry out of the dryer and I make the little piles of this is so-and-so's, that I'll say, come get your laundry, or go get your laundry off my bed. And they'll go get their stuff and go put it away. And they can take out the bathroom trash. So I don't have a chore chart anymore. Occasionally for Lucy, who is my almost 6-year-old, I will tell her, hey, if you want to make a little bit of money, here's some extra things you can do, and mom will pay you for that, to give her that opportunity. But it's no longer on the fridge. It's not super detailed again. It's just as I see the need. I will say I would like to get my big boys learning how to wash dishes and like load the dishwasher and stuff. Currently our dishwasher breaks like every other day. So I'm either hand washing or then we are using the dishwasher, but we're not sure it's gonna work. So maybe once we get that settled, I will work a little bit on getting them. Not because I so much want it, honestly. Sometimes it's hard to let your kids clean because you just want to get it and get it done. But I think that's just a skill they need to go ahead and be acquiring. But no more chore chart, no more paying them for chores. Another one is mommy dates. So I shared in a video about spending quality time with your kids that it used to be, and I didn't even remember this until I saw that video, that Jason would have a date with a kid one month, and then like the next month I would have a date with a different kid, and then, you know, we would switch on and off. And then we would have like a family date every, I guess like 5th date, because we only had 4 kids then. And we don't do that anymore. It's all daddy dates, and he rotates through all 5 of the kids. And we have not done a monthly date probably since like 2021 as a family. That doesn't mean we don't go do things as a family, but it's no longer a scheduled part of our life. Which, in saying what I'm not doing, I feel like I'm noticing a pattern of how much I used to have things scheduled and really planned, and now a lot of those things are still happening, but they're not something that I'm writing down to make them happen. And I think that's the beauty of also just creating habits, just being intentional for a while until those intentions kind of become habits, to where maybe things don't have to be written down and checked off, but they're still, you know, finding their way into happening. But mommy dates really aren't happening, except I do try and take Lucy on one on occasion. She's my only girl. She doesn't have the gift of sisters, so I feel like that's extra important. But yeah, so far they're just daddy dates, and that's working good. Then the last one that I have written down, I'm sure there's more, but that I could remember, was I don't do broad category budgeting anymore. So in a lot of my older budgeting videos, even like 6 years ago or something, I talked about if you're starting out in budgeting, I thought it was better, easier. It was easier for me then to just have really simple categories like kids. And that covered if the kids went to a birthday party, kids clothes, kids this, kids that, you know, whatever. If they were have it was their birthday month. I am now much more detailed. And I credit that, or I think the change in that, just because our life is so much more complicated than it was 5 years ago. We've added another child. Our church has grown and changed. our children have grown and changed, and they have so many friends, and they have sports that they're in, and you know, you sign up for a sport and then there's a coach's present, and there's an end of the year party, and there's a fundraiser, there's a, you know, all of this stuff is just more complicated than when I just had toddlers at home and really the only expenses were maybe a friend's birthday party or if they needed a couple of clothes that month. So my budgeting now, and I will do a budgeting video updated with you on the categories that I have, but we love and highly utilize sinking funds now to be prepared for all of the expenses that come with having not a large family, but a family of 5 kids, and one that we are very active. My personality type, so far most of my kids' personalities seem to be extroverted. My poor husband has to reel us in a little bit, but we are going in more directions and things are a little bit more complicated. So for budgeting purposes, I prefer now to have a little bit more detailed so I can really know I'm prepared for whatever's coming up. And so I think that is all the ones that I have for you. If there's one you want to ask me about from one of the old videos, like are you still doing that, then you can leave that down in the comments below. And I look forward to chatting with y'all on my next video.